Well, welcome back. This is Stocks to Watch as we get updates on GT Biopharma, generating novel immuno-oncology biopharmaceutical drugs targeting cancers, trading on the NASDAQ under GTBP. This video is disseminated on behalf of GT Biopharma, and we're privileged to be joined by Michael Green, the CEO, as always. Welcome back, sir.
Hi, Carl. It's very nice to be here, and thank you very much for having me on again. It's always a privilege.
And always a pleasure getting you back on. And I want to dive into this as you have plans to submit another application for a new investigational drug trial application with the FDA. I mean, could you give us some more information about the drug and whether the application has already been submitted?
Sure, delighted to. So we actually submitted the investigational new drug application to the Food and Drug Administration back at the end of December. And I'm delighted to say that we heard back at the end of January that the FDA had given us approval to proceed. So we're extremely excited with regard to that because the actual trial itself is for solid tumors, and solid tumor market is a big market, but more particularly the idea is that we try and find a more humane cure for cancer utilizing the body's own immune system, which is what our technology does. So it's the natural killer cells that our technology activates and then helps to proliferate those natural killer cells and also gives them persistence so that they're sufficient in number. They can identify the cancer specific to the patient, but also that they effectively stay around long enough, not only to kill, but to keep killing all of the cancer.
Yeah, I appreciate the insights, and I want to speak more to the solid tumor market in a moment, but you have plans to perform a basket trial. I mean, can you explain for our viewers what a basket trial is and kind of the scope for this trial and what you're kind of targeting?
Before we continue, be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos.
I'm not really sure where the phrase basket trial came from because it's a little bit confusing, I think, but it's a range of different types of solid tumors that we are targeting. I guess that's where the basket phrase came from. So just to elaborate on that a little bit, we're going to target all of the big, most deadly and prolific solid tumor cancers that are in existence. So we're going after things like breast cancer, which affect 1 in 7 women at one point in their life worldwide. We're going after prostate cancer, which affects 1 in 8 men worldwide, ovarian cancer, head and neck cancer, lung cancer, pancreatic cancer, and bladder cancer. So just kind of pausing for a moment, we're talking about some of the cancers that are the most deadly and affect a huge number of people worldwide. It's obviously very important to us that this trial is successful and extremely important to the world that companies like ours do this very important work and try and find a cure for some of the most prolific cancers. So the fact that we're doing a basket trial is indicative of the fact that the molecule that we have, we strongly believe that it's very exciting and has a real place with regard to a cure for cancer. But specifically, solid tumors, 90% of solid tumors highly express something called B7H3, and that is the target that we're using to attach to the solid tumor. So we know already that a large number of other oncology research companies like ours have identified and are utilizing B7H3 as the target, the most beneficial, most likely target that will produce good results. So that's obviously very encouraging, kind of endorses our scientists' view. The target that we should attack with regard to solid tumors is B7H3. And then, if I may just take the time to explain that our technology is a platform technology. And what that means is it's got 3 separate functional parts. It's got a CD16 receptor, but it's also got something called interleukin-15, which is kind of what we call a secret sauce, which delivers the payload which kills the cancer. So those two functional parts remain exactly the same, irrespective of what type of cancer we're trying to eradicate. And then the third part of the functional molecule is the targeting mechanism. And in this case, with solid tumors, as I've explained, the targeting mechanism is B7H3. And the reason that we're so very excited is because we already know and have seen from other first-in-human trials that we have conducted using effectively 2/3 of the same molecule, just with a different targeting mechanism. For example, in blood cancer, where the targeting mechanism was something called CD33. So we're very excited. Can't wait to start the trial, and more particularly, very excited with regard to the fact it's a basket trial.
Yeah, and speaking of that targeting mechanism, I mean, do you expect the drug to work on all those targets, just for the again, that basket of solid tumors that you're approaching?
That's a really great question. It's obviously always very difficult to tell because this is going to be a first in human trial. But just referring back to the explanation I gave a moment ago, we already know that our molecule has demonstrated some interesting signals in our blood cancer trials. And it's effectively the 2/3 the same molecule as for this solid tumor trial. We're very confident that B7H3 is the correct target to go after. And then in relation to whether it's more likely to work on one or more than one of the targets of the different cancers that I've explained, logically, it should. Logically, because all of those solid tumors that we're targeting highly express B7H3. So if we've got the targeting right, the B7H3, that means that we'll get great binding affinity onto the cancer cell using the B7H3. Then it's up to the other functional parts of the molecule, the interleukin-15 or the payload, which helps to activate, proliferate, and give persistence to the body's natural killer cells. So we've already seen it work to an extent in blood cancer. So we think it's got a very, very good chance, and that's why we've made the effort to manufacture the drug, and that's why we've spent the money with regard to setting this all up, and we're very excited to start the trial as soon as possible.
All right, so let's zoom out a little bit. I mean, what indications or signs are you looking for at this phase of the basket trial as you guys kind of head toward this?
So as I explained, this is a phase 1 first-in-human trial. So the general response that you will always get when you ask that question in relation to a phase 1 trial is that all you're looking to do is to demonstrate safety. Ironically, we already know that we've seen and demonstrated safety for a very similar molecule, albeit without the B7H3 targeting that I've referenced in relation to blood cancer. So we are as confident as we can ever be that our molecule is safe. What I'd also say is, even though it's a phase 1 trial, we would be a little bit disappointed if we didn't see some signals with regard to efficacy. And that, again, is based upon what we've seen in the blood cancer trial, where we have demonstrated and seen some of those signals with regard to bone marrow blast count reductions. So to kind of encapsulate where we're going with this, what I'd say is we believe that we will be able to demonstrate safety. We very much hope that we will see some signals of efficacy. We have the fundamentals and the basis for those views based on what we've seen in blood cancer, and also based on the fact that we believe that the B7H3 targeting mechanism is the right mechanism.
Now, I know everybody knows somebody affected by cancer, but maybe just break down how big the solid tumor market is specifically. I mean, obviously, commercially speaking, how big is this opportunity?
So, again, a really great question, as always, Kyle. The market is absolutely vast. And as I alluded to earlier, the reason it is so big is because these solid tumor cancers affect so many people, such a significantly large proportion of the population, whether it's, 1 in 7 women for breast cancer or 1 in 8 men for prostate cancer or whatever. There's been a relatively recent study that estimated the entire solid tumor market worldwide to be worth $362 billion per annum. So we already know the market is vast, gargantuan. And what we say is kind of forget for a second that we're trying to find a cure for all 7 of those cancers, which actually we are. That is what we are trying to do. So we're very, very optimistic insofar as you ever can be at this stage where you haven't actually commenced the trial.
Yeah, absolutely. And I just got one more question kind of around the drug development side, just to follow up here. Are you guys looking to increase the potency of the drug or doing anything in terms of that?
So we have actually changed the molecule quite significantly relatively recently. We had a first generation molecule, which we did a phase 1 first in human trial for blood cancer back in 2021. We were just about ready to go into phase 2 with that trial, having seen some very encouraging signals. And of course, our scientists, who are incredibly hardworking, diligent, committed, and super intelligent individuals, they're constantly working to try and improve the molecule. And they came to me and said, Michael, we think we've actually really improved the molecule, and we're not sure that it makes a whole lot of sense to go into phase 2 trial and spend millions more dollars on what we now think is the old technology. And I said, well, how significant is the improvement? And they said, well, it's potentially huge because we've included nanobody technology, which gives our trike molecule much better binding affinity onto the cancer cell because it's just smaller, tinier fragments, which makes it easier to bind on. With the interleukin 15, which I've referred to as being the payload to supercharge the body's natural killer cells, we think we've significantly improved that as well. And we've gone with a what we call a camelid type of interleukin 15, which just makes it much more robust, but also significantly in all of our preclinical experiments, it's somewhere between 10 and 40 times more potent than the first generation molecule. So at that point, I kind of went, oh, okay, this is kind of the best and the worst of all dilemmas, because I wanted to go into phase 2 trial for the first generation molecule, but it just didn't make any sense to do so. So I paused that trial, and now this is the second generation molecule that we're already reconducting a phase 1 for blood cancer trial. And this is the second generation molecule that's going to be for solid tumors. So in terms of development, it's something which our scientists are currently working very hard on. And as I say, the potency of the drug is somewhere between 10 and 40 times greater than the first generation molecule. So we're very excited with regard to that potential.
Well, incredible to hear. And besides that, I mean, what are the next milestones that investors should kind of be on the lookout for?
2026 is going to be a momentous year for GT Biopharma. And I don't say that lightly. We're exactly halfway through our phase 1 trial for blood cancer, which I referred to earlier. We're kind of on the cusp of, because the way a trial works is you dose cohorts of 2 patients for this trial. And once you finish that dosing and you demonstrate there's no adverse effects, which none of our patients have had any adverse effects from the administration of our molecule or drug, then the FDA has a pre-prescribed dose escalation level. And we're just kind of on the cusp now when we move into the next cohort where the amount of drug that we're going to administer is going to be at the level that we expect to see some interesting signals, whether it's bone marrow, reduction in bone marrow blast counts or other things. So we're super excited about that. And we will be releasing the data from each cohort as it's completed. So those are the sorts of things, because boy, you've got to say biopharma loves data, and companies like ours, their stock price is driven by data. So we're very excited about that. And then in terms of the solid tumor milestones, we will announce enrollment. Once we've done the screening, then we'll announce dosing of the first patient. And then similarly to the blood cancer trial, we will release the data as it comes with the completion of each cohort. So we have a huge amount of data coming down the pipeline in 2026. And hopefully it's extremely positive data, as we're reasonably expecting it to be. And we really can't wait to get into 2026 and get dosing more patients.
Well, I appreciate your time today, Michael. As we pass it off to the viewer, as always, we'd love to know what you think in that comment section below. And consider subscribing as news and catalysts come down the wire. Of course, we'll bring it to you here. If you'd like to explore GT Biopharma any further, we'll obviously leave the links in the description as well. But on that, as always, we look forward to catching you in the next one.
Thank you.